It's Misha, and we are going to talk about insulin resistance, a few things that I've been getting asked about, and a little bit about the thyroid. So, good morning and welcome in. So, just hang out for a minute, ask questions. By the way, this forum isn't just about me talking and talking, this is about you guys getting answers. So, if you have questions, here's the agreement that maybe we can make. If I don't know the answer, I'm going to go and find answers for you, and then we'll talk about it on one of these lives. If I do know the answer, I'll try to answer right away. If it's too big of an answer to give on today's live, we'll do it on another one. But I can at least give you brief answers to most of the things. And why can I do that? Now, I'm not going to claim to be a doctor, a nutritionist, any of that. I'm a woman who got really, really sick. And when the medical system failed me and wasn't helping me get better, and I was just getting sicker and sicker, I'm 60 years old now. I, at one point a couple of years ago, did not believe I would make it to live to be 70. And my outlook now is, hey, I want to live to be 100. I got a lot to do. But I got better by understanding this thing called insulin resistance. And actually, I didn't even understand it at first. I just found a protocol that promised to help me with my diabetes. And along the way, everything else got better. That's how I started making these links. That and a number of books by the guys who do know and the ladies who do know. So there's this book is one of my favorite books that I talk about and would love people to read, Why We Get Sick. It's by one of the top metabolic scientists in the world, Dr. Ben Bickman. So a lot of information comes from him, but then there's a lot of other brilliant minds that I garner information from just so I can bring it to you guys. And sometimes it's a number of them, and I bring all the information together because they all have different pieces to bring in. So as I started doing work on the thyroid, I realized, oh my gosh, um, all of the systems have real intricacies, right? But the thyroid, more than any other, has so many intricacies that I want to give it another day of just being able to dive in, read through papers, make notes, make some research, put my thoughts together with all of the information I'm getting. So we're going to go over a few things this morning, and I'll talk a little bit about thyroid, but we'll dive deep into thyroid tomorrow because I want to make sure I'm getting all of the pieces together for you. So I hope we can agree on that because I'd rather give good information than wrong information. So let's start off with a little bit about the thyroid and insulin resistance because I want to cover it a little bit in brief today, but I really want to dive in today and find the questions that I have so that because you probably will have similar ones, so that I can give those answers tomorrow. But right now, what I want everyone to understand is that thyroid dysfunction and insulin dysfunction are bidirectional. So if the thyroid genetically or from toxins or whatever is having problems, it can cause problems with insulin resistance. If you have insulin resistance and both of them, let's bring both of them down, thyroid dysfunction and insulin dysfunction, to carbohydrate dysregulation. It doesn't mean that you can't have carbs. It means that your body's having a hard time knowing what to do with carbs. So there's that huge distinction, and it really is bidirectional. So where you find one, you'll often find the other one. And I want to do a little bit more research on how this links into hyperthyroidism because there's a huge link there too. We already know and understand that there's this big link between Hashimoto's and insulin resistance, primarily due to the inflammation that insulin resistance is causing throughout the body. That insulin resistance caused inflammation causes havoc in so many parts of the body. Now, when insulin resistance or when insulin is high, it's messing with the cues from your hypothalamus to be able to produce TSH. TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, is what tells our thyroid to produce T4. So T4 thyroxine is actually an inactive form of thyroid. It's produced the hormone, it's floating out there, the hormone is ready to be utilized, but it has to be converted to be utilized in the cells. That conversion happens in the liver. When the liver gets a hold of T4, it converts it into T3. Let's see if I can say this right. Triiodothyronine. triiodothyronine. Okay, so that's a hard one for me to say. But that T3 then is the active form of thyroid that our body uses. And what is all this and why would they be so bidirectional? So let's think about thyroid hormone as being the regulator for the energy that we take in. So that thyroid hormone is really telling our body how to use the energy, and insulin is delivering the energy to the cells. Now, that's a pretty simplified version. I get it, but just understand that how so many people like me have been getting their thyroid function better or under control is by addressing the insulin resistance, and in the center of it, addressing the carbohydrate dysregulation. So again, this is a huge topic. There's a lot to go on, and inflammation has a lot to do with it. There's this piece where the T3, once it's converted from the T4, if the cues are being able to be driven from the brain, remember it starts in the brain, goes to the thyroid, then goes to the liver. So brain, thyroid, liver. And if any of those steps along the way go wrong, we have this energy dysregulation problem. So maybe you're cold and tired all the time. Your hands and feet are cold. You're having problems maintaining your hair. You're just fatigued all the time and your body aches. Doesn't that sound a little bit similar to some of the complaints that people have with insulin resistance? Absolutely, because it's all about energy. So with that, I want you to understand that there is a big link, but it's bidirectional, meaning it goes both ways between thyroid and insulin. And that's going to be the cue where we start off tomorrow to talk more in depth about these things, because I can't help myself. There's this thing that happens when we have this inflammation and our cells feel like they're endangered, that they will no longer let the T3 in, and now this energy dysregulation is even worse. So I'm going to dive into more about how and why that happens and what's going on in the cell. By the way, remember every single cell has an insulin receptor on it because it needs energy. So it makes sense then that every single cell has a thyroid receptor, because that's what's going to tell that energy that the cell takes in how much and what to use. Okay. I hope that answers a little tiny bit of the problem. So Pamela's over here on Facebook and she says, oh, thank you, Pamela. She says, hello, I cannot thank you enough. She's getting better and better by the day. She thought she'd be really sick and dead soon. Same. Now feeling fitter, brighter, happier. In fact, she just brought a trolley to walk to her allotment, brought trolley to walk to your allotment down lane. It's difficult as you have brain condition. We found out most of the issue with that isn't so bad eating from soil cured your thyroid, eating soil, no more fibro. Insulin resistance education. Yes. Okay. So basically, all this education on insulin resistance has helped her get her health back. So she realizes the insulin resistance, remember, it's bidirectional, was causing some thyroid problem for her. So her thyroid problems are getting better by addressing the insulin resistance. So in a little while, I'm going to tell you what we're doing to help our thyroid and our insulin resistance by attacking the insulin resistance first. What I want you to all understand is that there's this big ray of hope by understanding and addressing your insulin resistance. But please, 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 because we're going to dive into a little bit about fasting right now. Please understand that getting insulin under control is just one piece of it. So it would be like me saying, I'm going to put gas in my car. I'm never going to change the oil. I'm never going to change the tires. I'm never going to look at the brakes. I'm never going to figure out any of the other stuff, the electrical system, all of that going on with the car. I'm just going to put gas in it. And once I address that the tank needs gas, my car's going to run fine. So insulin resistance, I feel like, is the same way. It takes a big piece of this whole equation and answers it. But there, for many people, can be a number of other issues. So please don't stop at insulin resistance. Use insulin resistance to clear the elephant out of the room, to see what things are related to insulin resistance so you can see and understand and address what else may be going on in your body. For me, it's always going to start with clearing the insulin resistance out, see what happens to the body and how it responds. Because the more science that we've seen, um, it it all links back into insulin resistance. Now, Pamela says she eats fresh, grows all her own foods, no chemicals, nothing. Perfect. So, and that was, I'm going to be honest, my diet hasn't been perfect lately at all. And as I read through this stuff, it's so good for me too. I'm just checking to see if I'm missing any comments. Um, because it's reminding me of my own health journey that I need to take. So you guys help me just as much as I bring information to you. And I really appreciate the questions, because those questions spur me to go find answers. And hey, Florida cop, what puts me in check? Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Let's see if we can. Oh, okay. Hey, yeah, I didn't mean to do that. I was trying to make your comment visible to everyone, but so thanks, Florida cop. I'm gonna. That was an accident. No so worries, I'll cancel it. All right, thanks. So okay, there's all of that going on. We'll dive deep into the thyroid tomorrow. Right now, I want to talk about fasting and fiber and carbohydrates and all of the above. Okay, I still want. There your comment shows up. It flags some of the weirdest comments, and I don't know why. Okay, why I want to talk about fasting is fasting. There's been so much information and scientific, clinically validated, peer-reviewed studies that intermittent fasting is actually really good for your heart, good for your brain, good for your gut. And recently, I've had this influx of questions from people who are like, "Oh my God, Michelle, there's been this study that come out that said 16-8 fasting actually causes heart disease." Put a 1 in the comment. Has anybody who understands fasting or loves fasting or is curious about fasting heard this little uproar about intermittent fasting causing heart attacks or heart disease? Put a 1 in if anybody's heard that. And if you haven't, that's fine. We're going to talk about it anyway. So, did that scare you, Tito? Did that make you think, like, why are so many people talking about it and why would I want to do this? Let's dive into some of the nuts and bolts about the study, okay? So, number one, it wasn't a clinically controlled study. It wasn't a peer-reviewed study. The study was from like 2013, 20, 21 years ago, and we don't even understand what's going on with it. But in the front end of the study, in the abstract of the study, they talked about, although there's a correlation, that there was no real proof that intermittent fasting caused the heart disease in these people. So this study was just tracking, how and when people ate. Nobody like was there handing them a meal and saying, you all get the same meal. Let's see how this happens with your body. They were really relying on people to weigh in on what they ate and what time they ate. And so there's a lot to unpack there. There's people on channels that do a much better job describing it, but I'm going to do the best I can right now. So if you think that going from 12 hours, eating in a 12-hour window to eating in an 8-hour window is going to cause you heart problems, there's, uh, I just want you to think critically about that. If we talk about the effects, the proven effects of things like autophagy, where your cells are turning over, where your cellular structures are getting healthier and cleaning up, does that sound like a bad thing? Now, there's a couple of things going on with it. I'll try to come back to calorie restriction and this whole fasting thing. But in total, they talked to 20,000 people. Out of those 20,000, less than 400 were in this group. Those people were all the average age of 41. They all likely had metabolic disorders of some kind and were very unhealthy when they started the practice of intermittent fasting. It wasn't like, and we don't know, right? We don't know the truth behind that. We don't know if these 400 people and less than 2% of those were having this problem, but they made this big link between heart disease and intermittent fasting. So less than 2% of 20,000 people had some intermittent fasting issues. And was it really intermittent fasting? They didn't track the food they ate when they were eating. And it was a 2-day period. So maybe people said, yeah, I skipped breakfast today for 2 days. Maybe those people skipped a breakfast. Maybe they skipped a meal. Maybe their lifestyle just didn't allow for it. We don't have those answers. But those people are the ones who ended up with some type of cardiovascular disorder. It's very, very likely that they already had a metabolic or heart related, because if you've listened to me, you understand that insulin resistance causes 95% of high blood pressure, and that's linked to 80% of cardiovascular disease. So when we look at things that are not controlled so that we understand exactly what happens, maybe they skipped breakfast, and as Tom DeLauer said, maybe they went out and had a McFlurry and a Big Mac for lunch. That's not very heart healthy. But we don't know that because nobody tracked what they were eating. They were just tracking when they were eating. How often were they eating? They weren't tracking the nutrients that they were getting. And there's so much that's flawed from this one paper. And when people grabbed a hold of it, they looked at the fact that there was this link between intermittent fasting, supposed link between intermittent fasting and heart disease, and they ran with it. And why clickbait? Because intermittent fasting is such a big thing right now. So of course, if somebody has, ooh, I have this thing that's going to get me tons of clicks and tons of attention, I'm going to publish it. Well, how about we rely on things that actually have some controlled studies, some clinical data behind them, and some maybe even peer-reviewed studies that have results? There are none that I know of that would say that 16/8 fasting causes that heart problem. Now, when we look at that, and I talked a little bit about food, we have to understand that the quality of food, the quality of nutrients that they took in, likely had more to do with what was going on with their bodies and the fact that they were probably sick before they even started intermittent fasting than the intermittent fasting itself. So I'm going to lean on all the studies that show that intermittent fasting is actually really good for brain, gut, heart, and I'm going to roll with that because my health has gotten much better since I started intermittent fasting. Actually, the opposite of what was going on before. Right? Buck, intermittent fasting. And guess what? The other thing is when we do intermittent fasting, there's a couple of other things I want to address. So Buck says intermittent fasting works. Of course, they're going to try and discredit it. And why discredit it? Because if we're doing 16/8 fasting, we're eating 2 hours or we're eating 2 meals in an 8-hour window, and we're really focused on nutrients. We're not buying all the crap food that's on the shelf. And who's losing when we don't buy the crap food on the shelf? It's not us. So really be careful of some of these studies, and just like the erythritol study that came out that had no basis in reality in the human body. It was done in a petri dish and not any reactional information from the human body. So this whole intermittent fasting thing, you guys lean on the studies that have been proven and that are peer reviewed, and they will tell you that intermittent fasting is actually really good for our health. We're built for this. We were not built to be in a constant fed state. It's just not how our biology goes. So Leah's 12 hours into a 72-hour fast, hoping to help her knee pain and general inflammation, not concerned about heart. Leah, it absolutely can help with all of that. That 72-hour fast. And I think a 72-hour, if you're going to do a longer fast, is about a sweet spot. But the effects of the fasting on your cellular turnover starts to downplay after about 72 hours. At about 36 hours, they're peaked out. That's why I'm doing this 36 and 12 fast this month. Now, because I want to be honest with you guys, my son just deployed. We've had a lot going on. I am a human being and I buggered it up. So I'm back on my 36 and 12 fast now. On the odd days, I'm fasting, and I made it more than half the month, but I'm just going to continue this because when we're doing this fasting, we get the inflammation out of the body. We get dead cells being utilized up for fuel and being passed on out. So cells that could be turning into more inflammation and toxins and have oxidative stress and cause cancer or be at risk for cancer, all of those cells are being turned over and removed from the body when we do this little bit extended fasting. So I'm going to keep up with my fasting lifestyle, not taking me from that, because the lifestyle where I ate every 2 hours, like I did for years, because that's what I believed was the right thing to do, got me sick. This whole process of intermittent fasting and adding fiber in and adding this amazing tea that has so many great properties for it, that has reversed so many years of damage of my health and has helped my body get better. Interesting thing, one of the doctors was talking about how if it took you 20 years to get sick, why would you think you're going to get better in 30 days? And it was not talking about the protocol. I do anything, just people's mindset in general. So you guys, I was sick for 40 years. I've been doing this protocol for 3 years. A great amount of my system and symptoms have been helped, but it's not the end of my story, right? I have a lot to do. Now I have to reverse damage in other parts of my body that were caused by years, probably 40 years of insulin resistance. But getting the insulin resistance under control is the beginning piece for me. And that includes some time restricted eating. Now, when we talk about time restricted eating, we're not talking about calorie restriction, right? We're not talking about nutrient restriction. And I was so happy to hear Mindy Pels while I was leaning into some other people with a degree to talk about insulin resistance and thyroid and all this stuff. But Mindy Pels, who wrote Fast Like a Girl, I think that book is sitting right here too, not on purpose, but you guys, you should see my house. It's just full of books. So Fast Like a Girl. Mindy Pels is one of the big proponents of fasting, and she has programs written out for women, whether you're in menopause, whether you're still having periods, and how you should fast and when you should pay attention to more nutrients. But most fasting experts are going to agree that fasting is not about calorie restriction. It's about metabolic flexibility. It's about going from burning sugar for fuel to burning fat for fuel. Nothing to do with the calories we're eating, really. But when we're doing intermittent fasting, one of the other flaws with that, it wasn't even it was a study, but it wasn't, anyway, they didn't track the nutrition. They didn't track, did people reduce calories? Were people eating better? Were they just eating Big Macs and fries all day and skipping a meal once in a while because they had a busy lifestyle? And that's probably more likely what happened. So with intermittent fasting, if you're doing it right, you're taking a break from food. You're allowing your body to switch over from this glucose burning model to fat burning model. When you go back to eating, it's really important then to focus on nutrients. And that's why I talk about all the time, like when I do eat tomorrow, I'm going to be focused on protein. So I will be trying to get in 150 or more grams of protein tomorrow, because I know that I'm not getting it in today. I'm going to be making sure I'm getting in proper amounts of fiber. So I'll be getting in about 40 grams of fiber, which, by the way, I still will get in 20 to 30 grams today because I want to feed my microbiome. It doesn't break my fast. It actually helps me with ketones. But I really want to break this. You guys, please, please, please. We've been trained for so long that calories in, calories out is the model that's going to get us healthy. And there's some efficacy to that, but it's not the whole thing. We really have to pay attention to hormones. So hormones like thyroid hormones, hormones like insulin, hormones like cortisol, and those three are all, there's three of them, right? But they're bidirectional with insulin resistance, cortisol, and thyroid, as well as leptin, ghrelin, the hunger and satiety hormones, and so many, and even our sex hormones, all are affected by insulin. And insulin resistance, too much insulin in the system, is helped by intermittent fasting, by allowing the need for the insulin to come down. If we need a bigger I'll be going over that more in depth tomorrow. If you need more on that, let me know. Just put a 1 in or say more, but I can talk more about insulin resistance and its actions. So intermittent fasting actually works, but you've got to focus on nutrients when you do eat. not just like, ooh, I fasted, so I'm going to go have a bowl of ice cream. I'm going to go have, and there's a tendency to want to do that. It's okay once in a while, but when you break your fast, what you should be paying attention to are fiber, fats, and protein. So those are some big macronutrients that you really want to get in to get your body moving again. In fact, at the end of even a 16-hour fast, an 18-hour fast, if you could get in, focus on, like Mindy Pels loves to do what she calls keto bombs, a little bit of fat to start breaking the fast. It's not going to increase your insulin, but it's going to start to give you energy for your body to work on. But I think what's happening with a lot of people, because I hear from my own clients that in their minds, we take this correlation between restricted calories and we apply it to intermittent fasting. And we're like, if a little is good, then a lot is better. And so many people are pushing their nutrition into one meal a day. Now, as you get older, as you get my age, one meal a day may be appropriate. We have less energy needs. For some of us, we just have different bodies. But for most people, OMAD, one meal a day, is not an appropriate eating style. And they're starting to find um, data, and I'll have to go back and find papers, but between a 16-8 fast and a 24-hour or OMAD fast, the 16-8 is doing a better job for people, likely because they're getting in more nutrients, not anything to do with calorie restriction. So please don't get intermittent fasting confused with calorie restriction. Okay. Intermittent fasting is not about caloric restriction. It's about allowing your body to switch off from burning sugar to being able to burn fat and then switch back to sugar when it needs to. Now, when we start to get this metabolic regulation, so between fat and sugar and fat, our body starts to be able to cope with sugar better when it's not overwhelmed with sugar all the time. So think about if you were to, like, okay, I need a shower, and you go get in the shower, but instead of getting out of the shower and drying off and getting dressed and going on about your day, you just stand in the shower all day. You're just being inundated by water. Your skin's going to start to prune up. You're going to start to have other issues. You're not going to get any work done. So when we're eating constantly, it's like standing in that shower all day and never drying off. Fasting is like getting the towel out and drying us off. Now we're starting to be able to clean up. Now we're starting to be able to go function. We don't run around all day with a shower head over us saying the water feels good, so I'm going to live like this. The sugar feels good, but we don't need to live like that. Okay, so intermittent fasting is actually really good for us. It turns over cells both in the heart, in the liver, both in multiple places, in the brain, in the gut, and it allows our bodies to start to heal from what we've been doing to it. So please don't buy into this whole fasting is going to give you heart disease. There's no clinical data that's peer reviewed that has any weight in it, that they actually looked at, the time eating window and the foods that people ate after it to say that this was true. Again, we want to lean into the fact that maybe somebody 2 days out of the entire study where they said, oh, hey, these people, 440 people, skipped their breakfast. And then they ended up with heart disease, and we're not paying attention to the rest of it. Ray, where am I lost, hun? So, if it's because I'm talking about how calorie restriction is not the thing, then we're not having that conversation, because on on the on the study that says intermittent fasting causes heart disease, yeah, I know. I was like, when people started saying, hey, Misha, there's this study out, and I'm like, what? So I found enough people talking about it, and yeah, it is that study was BS. If you look at it and start to break it down, it just is a load of crap. I'm just going to stop with that and say it's a load of crap. Now, um, Ray, you lost 40 pounds, yeah, so far on 16-8 fasting. And so you guys, let's just understand that fasting really is one of the necessary tools to start getting us more metabolically flexible. When we started in this I'm going to say age of gluttony, where we decided to eat all the time, um, and then we let our brains and society take over, and we're just like stuffing food in our face all the time. That's when we started really getting sick from this stuff. So TK, she has been doing intermittent fasting for almost 5 years. Blood work is phenomenal, according to your cardiologist. Amazing. We have cardiologists who are actually recommending the protocol that I'm doing and intermittent fasting to their patients. If it was so bad for your heart, why are so many cardiologists recommending it? Um, Binge eating, masala. So that's more. Let's go over. I can't say for you. I don't know what it is. I don't know. Like, look, PTSD, ADHD, and some of what my daughter-in-law calls isms, like autism, all can affect your hunger and satiety hormones and the propensity for binge eating. ADHD people, I'm one, and so I have problems with that too, to be honest. Um, we have an impulse control dysregulation going on. So, one of the clues for you, if some of that's appropriate for you, might be to just understand that you have that impulse control piece. And when you're starting to try and binge eat, because I don't know, yeah, you have adult ADHD. So sometimes, correct me if I'm wrong, you start to eat, and all of a sudden, because this has happened to me, I'm going to preface with that. You start to eat, and you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have this. And then an hour later, you're like, oh my God, what? It's like you just come out of this fog, and that impulse dysregulation caused problems. And now you're wondering, how you got here and what just happened to your good eating plan. My phone is about to die, so I might have to pick it up and go. You guys, I might have to go find. I thought about that before I logged on. Do I not have a phone cord in here? I carry my phone cords all around the house. Well, we'll just go until the phone dies and see what we have. On Ozempic and some long-acting insulin, your doctor said you must eat throughout the day. Thoughts? Well, of course you have to. If you're type 2 diabetic, Gabby, you guys over on Facebook, forgive me. I'm going to go ahead and get my phone cord. I'll be right back. 30 seconds. So what if you're taking insulin and that is the driver of what's going wrong with your body is too much insulin. Let's see which cord am I going to grab. And that insulin is trying to drive your blood sugar down by keeping insulin high. You're at risk of becoming hypoglycemic. So when you become hypoglycemic, your blood sugars drop. So now, eating too much too often causes you to be sick. They give you a medication that's exacerbating that. And now they're telling you to eat more often because you're on these medications. And Ozempic, oh, honey, we just did a whole talk about Ozempic the other day. I am not a proponent of those medications because they're causing a load on your body that doesn't need to be there. If we just understood what really is the problem. Ask your doctor, does he really understand insulin resistance and how to take care of it? Because insulin resistance is what leads to prediabetes, diabetes, your A1C being high, and all of that. And it doesn't have so much to do with your insulin levels or your sugar levels, but the insulin levels in your blood. Now you're putting more of what's already too much in, and you're having problems, and your doctor's telling you to go ahead and eat all the time. So is your doctor, for me, knowing what I know now, I would run from that doctor, to be honest. Just for me, my choice, not telling you what to do, not telling anyone what to do. But for me, after knowing what I know now, if a doctor were to try to give me insulin, which I never allowed them to give me insulin, if they were trying to put me on Ozempic, I would run. I would just run and find a doctor who understands insulin resistance and a doctor who can actually address your metabolism. Because what they're doing is attacking numbers, but they're not attacking the root cause, which is a defunct metabolism. Thank you, Linda Marie. She says great information. So Your A1C has been 5.2 to 5.6 for almost 10 years, started IF and got down to a 4.8. By the way, some of these lab numbers, they adjust. Like I think the A1C used to be at almost 6 before they considered you pre-diabetic or diabetic. And then it dropped down and then it dropped down again. And it was been 5.7 for a while. And they're now thinking about bringing it down to like 5.6, 5.5. Eventually, that calculation for your A1C is likely to drop closer to 5 before they as they lean into this. And if it's probably I'm speculating, huge speculation, that 5.3, 5.4 will sometime become the normal indicator. If you're at that range or lower, you're probably safe, but anything above probably 5.4, and they're going to consider you pre-diabetic. Watch for that. I think over the next several years that there's going to be more down regulation of what that A1C number is before they consider you pre-diabetic. But that's a whole off topic, or on topic, off topic. Ozempic is rough. So Ozempic does a lot of things to your body. And I won't have time to get into all of those, but Gabby, if you go back to, what day was it? Friday, on YouTube, this whole live is housed there for you to review later. If you want to go back and hear some information on those GLP1 drugs, please do that. What I want to talk about now is there is a more natural solution to all of this. So those drugs, I don't like. Everybody knows I don't like them. I think everybody knows that. I don't like calorie restriction for calorie restriction's sake. I believe that we need to eat within a certain amount of a range of calories. But I believe more importantly, we need to focus on nutrition. And so overdoing or underdoing any part of our nutrition is not going to be healthy for us. We want to focus on fiber, protein, and fats in our nutrition and limit the carbs. We need to do some intermittent fasting to allow our metabolism to switch from sugar to fat. And I can explain that more in depth. And we need to move our body. So now with the first 5 pieces of that, there's a system, a protocol that I use to help me get there. Because for years, like, I applaud you people who were able to dive into intermittent fasting and just do it. With and it's not an excuse. People who don't have ADHD don't realize the struggle. But I heard about intermittent fasting. My son talked to me about it so many times, and I'm like, yeah, I've heard about it. It sounds great, and I'm going to try it. And then I would start trying it, and I would fail. I would just fail. Boom, right on my face, fail. I didn't even think that I was going to become such a huge proponent of intermittent fasting until, supported by a protocol that's giving me nutrients into my body, I got better and I started to become a real proponent of it. And I actually love the intermittent fasting lifestyle. In fact, my grandson was over because it's spring break, and I had 3 meals in one day, and I didn't have a preceding day of 36-hour fast. And I was like, I just don't feel right. I don't like this, and I need to get back to my 16/8 fast. Binge eating, right? So let's stop feeling like we're failing and start just taking a step at a time. When we have a baby who's learning about life, they don't come out of the womb, take a few steps, and start running, right? I want people to understand that movement and consistency and commitment towards moving towards a better way is more important than the perfection of the movement itself. Does that make sense? So knowing that you have ADHD, knowing that you have a propensity to binge eating, for one reason, this is one of the reasons I love like a 36 and 12 fast, because with ADHD and how easy it is for me to binge, the taking away food for 36 hours and knowing in my brain how much health is being built, how many cells are turning over, how much is getting cleaned up out of my system, including from my liver, that helps. And there is no binge eating because I'm just not eating. Now, on my day that I do eat, tomorrow, I can eat within a 12-hour window. I'm less likely to binge eat on that day because I have set up that I'm focused on nutrients. And when you focus on fiber, protein, and fats first, you're going to be less likely to overeat the other stuff. When you overeat, it's probably because you're starting off with high carbohydrate things. People will be like, oh, yeah, I didn't have breakfast because I just had a Nutri-Grain bar. Oh, yeah, I didn't have breakfast because I just had that big old coffee full of cream and sugar from Starbucks, from McDonald's, from Dutch Bros, from whatever coffee places around. That, my dear, is a lot of sugar that now cues your body, spikes your insulin, starts you in this mode of needing sugar more than you thought, and now you're going to probably binge on those same types of foods. Whereas if you started your day with some, I use no nitrate, by the way, or uncured when I do ham and bacon. I don't eat a lot of pork outside of ham and bacon. But if you had, like the other day, I caught myself, and so my grandson wanted pancakes. I made him pancakes. My plate, I was like, you need protein in. You had a pancake with him a while back and you felt so sick. So my plate was 3 eggs, some sausages, and a load of cheese. And it was all chopped up in a scramble. Way better on satiety that day than on a day I would have a pancake for breakfast. Okay, even if it was a protein pancake. 12 hours, I recommend 16 hours of fasting every day if you can. Now, if you're a woman in menstruating years, please get this book, Fast Like a Girl, and see what Mindy Pels talks about for your fasting windows um, with your cycle. Okay, because she's done so much research on it. I'm not even going to try. I am not the expert on who should fast like what. Talk to these people. But yeah, I think a 16-hour fast is way better than a 12-hour fast. So let's go over it. Can we go over why I like a 16-hour fast instead of a 12-hour fast? Um, so here's what happens to your body. Let's go over this. When you eat, so I was gaming with some friends last night. Yeah, at 60 years old, I started gaming, and it's actually good for my mental acuity, was surprising. But I had it is in fact it's a Nature's Valley or something biscuit with peanut butter in it, which I thought I got for my grandson, but he didn't like them. Anyway, I had one of those. So that's about 9 p.m. So I'm only at 12 hours of fasting now. So 9 p.m. last night, I had that last bite of food, right? Now it takes about 2 hours for my blood sugars to kind of normalize. If you watch the people who do the continuous glucose monitors, they don't do their blood sugar right after they eat. They watch it, and that spike in blood sugar happens somewhere between 1 and 2 hours, closer to 2 hours after you eat. That's the spike. Then the blood sugars start to come back down. At about 4 hours, your blood sugars are back down normal if you're not highly insulin resistant. Now, so insulin follows the sugar level, right? So sugar was high, insulin was high. Sugar is coming down around 4 hours. Insulin is going to stay high for a little bit if you're insulin resistant because you've trained your body that you're going to put more food in your face at that 2 to 4 hour period. And so insulin's like, oh, they're going to eat again. I got to stay high. But when you don't feed it, insulin starts to go, hey, wait, there's no food coming in. I can start to come down at about 8 hours after your last bite of food. That insulin level comes down. Now, there's a component hormone. When we look at our metabolism as far as energy delivery, we have insulin, which is saving. It's anabolic. It wants things to grow. It wants things to build. It wants to save. Insulin. When we're eating, we're using insulin for energy delivery. When we stop eating and stop using that glucose, guess what? Your fat cells are full of a number of things. Toxins are some, but sugars are some. And there's a lot of little sugar packets called glycogen in your liver that are stored for breakdown for energy use later because the body wants to survive. So we have tons of places where the body can utilize energy that have nothing to do with the food we put in our face. But get insulin levels down at hour 8. Now this other hormone called glucagon can come out. Interestingly enough, glucagon raises your blood sugars. How? Glucagon at hour 10 is coming out, but it takes a while for the body to go, oh, I don't know. Is this going to happen or not? And then a couple hours in, the body's like, ooh, they're still not eating. Insulin is down. Glucagon is up. Now human growth hormone comes out. Now ketones come out. Now cells start getting ready to turn over and be gone. That's at hours 12. So glucagon's out at 10 hours. This action starts to help in at 12. Now you've fasted for 12 hours. And just when your body's starting to put out HGH, ketones, and all these other really great properties, you start to eat. Okay. So why we do the 16 hours is now at 12 hours, this HGH and this ketones, which are telling your body to burn fat for fuel, start to be produced. But remember, your body's not like a switch. So it just doesn't go boom and it happens. It has to have some time to build and get all those signals sent out. Now at 14 hours, your body's like, ooh, there's this influx of ketones. There's this influx of HGH. There's not any glucose coming into the body. So we're going to start burning up fat out of the liver, fat from around your body, and we're going to utilize that as energy. And it was confusing for me for a long time because here's the thing. If glucagon is increasing the sugar level in your blood or the glucose level in your blood, and I'm telling you that insulin has to be down because insulin is the delivery system for glucose, then what happens? Well, the body's pretty darn smart. So it has another delivery system. When we're eating, it's going to default to the major delivery system of insulin. When we're not eating and glucagon is now breaking down fats from the liver and pulling fats out of your cells and turning that back into glucose for energy for the body, there's backdoor receptors for that energy to come in that don't require insulin to go up. So glucagon being out can cause your sugars to go up because glucagon is like, ooh, blood sugars are low, we need energy, and so it's going out and scavenging and getting you that energy. So that's what's happening with intermittent fasting. And what the interesting thing is at 24 hours, why I love the 36 and 12 fast at 24 hours. So now we've gone from 16 hours, we're going to 24 hours. During that time, you're having this cellular turnover happen. You're having this thing called autophagy start to happen where your body's really starting to pull in what we call junk cells that are maybe dying off, maybe damaged, maybe full of inflammation, oxidative stress, and they're pulling those cells out for use as that energy, but it's causing this cleanup. And inside your gut, inside your stomach lining is rebuilding, your intestinal tract is rebuilding, and they're getting stronger. Right? So much more energy on a 16/8 fast. So all of that needs to happen. A 12-hour fast, if you're a beginning faster, 12 is good. But the more you can start to lean into, okay, I did 12 hours yesterday, I'm going to try 13 hours today. Oh, 13 hours wasn't too bad. I'm going to try 14 hours. And then, 14 hours wasn't that bad. I'm going to move on and get to the 16 hours as soon as you can. For me, that was really difficult. Because of all the binge eating and the hunger cues that I had and emotional cues. Look, I'm a survivor. I have PTSD. I have whatever. It's been a road for me. Okay. Intermittent fasting has been such a gift, but it was hard for me. So you see me drinking this tea every morning. We're going to talk about the protocol I used that actually turned my life around. It's a tea that I drink in the morning and a pre-meal drink that I have before I eat anything. This tea actually mimics the GLP1 actions of that Ozempic without all the damage. This tea that I'm drinking right now can increase my GLP1 action, glucagon-like peptide, which is what those drugs are doing, by supporting my body with nutrients, by getting my body with some intermittent fasting into a state where it wants to do this. My GLP1 action is increased by 70% with just this tea, without causing damage to my body, without causing damage to my pancreas or my liver or my thyroid or any of that. It's giving me nutrients, antioxidants, anti-cancer activity, so much more. And it's amazing. And it's only can be found in this particular tea. So yerba mate tea is what that is. But the difference is, instead of a bagged yerba mate tea, this tea has been processed in a way. Number one, it's a 5-step process. We hand pick it. The farmers pick only the ripe leaves, not overripe, not underripe. And then we process those through a fire roasting process that allows the components, nutrients that we need to get from the bulk of the plant so that we can extract it, concentrate it, and then we take it to a lab in Switzerland, puts it through a process called hyperpure. So PAHs, pesticides, all of that stuff gets removed. Now you have a super clean, highly concentrated form of yerba mate. So lots of studies on yerba mate and the GLP1 actions. But with this tea, one of the adaptogens in the tea called chlorogenic acids that can cross the blood-brain barrier and start to get the brain functioning and start to get your wellness better and your memory better and stop those cravings and that binge eating is 375 times more in this tea than any bagged yerba mate tea that you'll find on the market. This is a patented process. You can only get it with this company, but it's amazing. And this Dr. Benjamin Bickman on multiple podcasts, and he talks about yerba mate tea and its efficacy, and he will actually say the best form, the most efficient form of yerba mate tea that he's found ever is this one right here. So he doesn't get paid for that. He uses this tea himself every single day, twice a day. So that's the tea. And I do drink 2 of them a day. I'm having one. It's warm now. It was hot when I started. One now, and then as I transition throughout my day, I'll be having one on ice in about 20 to 30 ounces of water. And that helps keep my hunger down, helps keep my mental clarity up. When we have binge eating too, I want to address this. One of the problems is that our brain is not getting enough energy. So now our brain is cueing us to be hungry because hunger is a cue from our body that we need energy. The tea helps for constipation, yes. So the tea, okay, you guys, the tea, you can just get it right in my profile link. Tap on the link there, and I'm going to show you guys how to get it. I'm really excited to talk more about the thyroid tomorrow, but I just really didn't want to do it injustice today. I know we talked a little bit, but it's not just the tea. So there's the pre-meal drink. The pre-meal drink is giving me fiber. I'm getting the link in over on Facebook because they don't, it's so funny because Facebook people don't like TikTok and TikTok people don't like Facebook. But we're all one big world that lives together. Okay, so how to get the tea. If you go to my profile, just tap on the picture above, and when the white box comes up below, tap on that. It's going to get you to my crazy world. Let's close that down. All right, so you'll get to a page. Yours will be on a white background, but see these red lights right below my picture? That link right there, that's what you want to click. When you click there, it's going to take you to my landing page. I probably have way too much on here, but this right here is where you order the system I use. 1 tea, 2 fiber. Now, if you just feel like there's a couple of reasons why maybe you would just do the tea. I'm not a big proponent of just doing the tea, but if you're just interested in the tea, there's a 2-pack here so that you can do 2 a day and get the full benefits at a discounted price. And still, if you do it on subscription, get the free shipping and all of that. And I need to update the website because we now have, there's lemon ginger, there's black, which tastes, looks, and feels more like coffee, but we now have apple spice, which is available here as well. So that's where you get the tea. Just go there. Let me come back one more time. When you click on this first link, though, what I want to show you is important stuff. So number 1, my name is up here. Number 2, the company name is right over here. Okay. So it took you directly to the company's website, and that's important. If you go to buy it and it doesn't take you here, you're not getting all the guarantees. You're not getting the 90-day money back guarantee. You're not getting the satisfaction guarantee, the low price guarantee, the quality guarantee. But look, so apple spice is right here. You can pick that now. Lemon ginger, or black. And what you're getting is 30 of the tea, 60 of the pre-meal drink, which I haven't really even talked about. We're going to talk about that real quick now. And I got to get back to my other page here for my Facebook people. Okay. That's where you get it. Um, let's turn this around. So the second part of the system, though, is this fiber drink that I have. It has 5 grams of fiber. People are like, oh, it's just 5 grams of fiber. But it's not just the fiber, because not all fiber is the same. Every fiber has a different action in the body. And the fiber in that little packet has 7 different soluble and insoluble fibers. Who cares? Well, soluble and insoluble fibers work differently in the body. Insoluble fibers or insoluble fibers don't soak up water. So they stay intact and they're not digested. They're a carbohydrate, but they're an indigestible carbohydrate. Fiber, the right kinds of fiber, can help reduce your blood sugar spike when you eat. By this particular packet, this particular one has been studied and shown to reduce a blood sugar spike by 20%. Metamucil, Benefiber, they don't have those studies. They don't have that efficacy. This was specifically designed over 20 years ago, 15 to 20 years in process for the science of it, but to reduce that blood sugar spike. It, in effect, in the study, it says it takes a high glycemic food, with one that's converting sugar too quickly in your body, to a medium glycemic food, one that's kind of like time released sugar into your body. So a tea in the morning, a pre-meal drink before I eat anything now, and that's my day. It's in these packets. I mix it in water. End of story. I'm done. No little, like, now that I got used to these packets, it's hard for me to like have stuff that's in canisters. I'm like, oh my gosh, can I just have it portable? Yeah, I'm kind of spoiled. All right, so the tea in the morning helps you with mental clarity, helps you with energy, helps you with satiety, helps get nutrients to the brain, helps with healthy heart rate, and so many more things. The fiber, the pre-meal drink, is allowing you to feel full before you even eat. Similar to, so now we have 2 things: the tea that's acting on your GLP1, which Ozempic is doing pathways, but it's also allowing you to feel full because the fibers are expanding in your gut. So now if you drink it 10 minutes before you eat, you're less likely to overeat. And then when you do eat, that is encapsulating the food you eat and giving it a time release into your system. We don't want all the food to directly hit your intestinal tract. It overloads. Now we end up with IBS and Crohn's and diverticulitis and a number of other things that are all linked to inflammation and how food flows through our system. It's slowing that down so we have a more natural action. The fibers in this are like prebiotics, feeding your probiotics so that those probiotics in your gut, which are making you healthy, can thrive over the negative gut microbiome, like yeast and things. When you have high yeast, you're going to be craving sugar. So the fiber helps reduce those sugar cravings, helps reduce your hunger, helps reduce the amount that you're going to eat, and helps break down that food in a time-released manner that is healthier for your intestinal tract and your body to receive it. Um, Lucia. Yeah, so I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nutritionist. Thank you for the question. So, um, I always feel a little uncomfortable talking about me, but let's do it. So, I worked in medical for years in different capacities. Like I worked with old people for a number of years in high school. I went through a part of my life where I actually was like a designer for a ski wear company. I worked as a logger. I've done so many things, but um, after a divorce, I was looking at doing accounting, but there was no financial aid for accounting because I'd already been doing some of that, and so they were like, "Well, no, you have to do a whole different pathway." And I'm like, "Well, I've always wanted to help people," so I started studying I studied to be a medical assistant at a top college in the area, had a great medical assistant degree, have a certification there, started working with doctors, and was actually planning to study to become an RN, or more importantly, a nurse practitioner. And through the way my life goes, I fell, tore my thumb off. This hand was my right hand, my dominant hand, was dysfunctional for years, and so at that point in time, I was like, well, I don't know if the years of college are going to do my lifestyle justice. So I started working as a medical assistant, but I've always had a scientific mind. And so I worked closely with physicians, and I got a number of the physicians I worked with to allow me to talk about more natural cures, or let's not say cures, solutions to their issues. So obviously I didn't have a license. I couldn't talk to them, but I would always go in and be like, "Hey doc, there's this patient in the other room, and these are what she's going through, and I know that this can help. Do I have your permission to talk to her about this?" And the doctors would most of the time say yes. There was a few doctors who were like, "No, no." But most of my doctors would say yes. And so I became a real big proponent of my own health, and I started doing a lot of research on my own. At some point, I got really overwhelmed because I kept getting sicker and sicker, knew nothing about insulin resistance, stumbled on this protocol that I just showed you guys, and my whole life changed. And so if you look back at my videos from 3 years ago, I'm like, oh my gosh, I knew nothing. And what was I saying? But over the last 3 years, it's become this study of, hey, wait, my brain fog got better. Why? Hey, wait, my fatigue got better. Why? Hey, wait, my teeth and gums stopped bleeding. Why? Hey, wait, my hair started growing in. Why? Hey, wait, my thyroid function seems to be better. My thyroid, my estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, thyroid hormones are all in normal range now. And that's part of the reason I wanted to go over this, because in a bigger in a more in-depth talk tomorrow, because there's some information about TSH, T3, and T4 that we all need to understand. And I want to cover that tomorrow. But that's my background. I just started studying, and I've met Dr. Bickman, and had some talks with him about some of the stuff after reading his book that I started implementing in my life. And I said, hey, this was my train of thought. This is how I broke it down, not being the scientific guy that you are, but this is what I understand. And what do you think? And he was like, oh, amazing. You got it. You're doing the right thing. So that was really important to me. But I do a lot of reading. So I have, like him, there's this one, Dr. Giles Yao, Gene Eating. Those are all in my recommendations page. You guys, there's books all over my house for everything, tons of fasting books and whatnot. But I just started diving in to find out why. And then as people were getting sick and asking me, why would they do the protocol? Why are they getting better? We even have, not applicable to me, but we have a guy who had stage 3 kidney disease, addressed his insulin resistance with the protocol I just showed you. At the time he started the protocol, he was making appointments to get surgically prepped so that he could start doing dialysis. And he told his doc, wait, I've made it this long. I want to give this thing the 90 days they told me. If at the end of the 90 days I'm not doing better, we'll go ahead with the surgeries. Guess what? He reversed his stage 3 kidney disease. And this man, who thought it was going to be a lifestyle of dialysis, which is at least 3 days a week for a couple hours a day, having your kidneys flushed and all of that, it's horrible process to have to go through. I feel for anybody who's had to go through that, but he now no longer has to do that. So as I saw it and I understood that people don't understand this thing called insulin resistance, people don't know, and they're giving up all of their health autonomy to physicians who maybe don't know either. Um, it's a really unhealthy medical system we have, especially when we understand that insulin resistance affects 93% of us. So I want people to understand it doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be injections of insulin and Ozempic and all of that. It can be as simple as putting back the nutrition that's been stolen from us so our body can do what it's meant to do. No medications. Mama Newman, she's feeling better, and most importantly, her blood pressure is going down. Yeah, I do have, well, I have a natural I'm a curious person. And here's the thing, Lucia, it's just it's my personality. So it's like not everybody wants to sit and read all the crap I read, right? And it's not crap, it's great stuff. But not everybody wants to spend those hours, but you want to hear it. And here's my hope, that if I bring something to you and you do want to go do the research, go do the research. If you want to trust me and you've listened to me long enough and you want to go, okay, I want to try this, fine, do that too. But at least you've been given some information. And I've had so many people who are going back to their doctors and saying, hey, wait a minute. And then now the doctors are like, oh yeah, okay, or they're like, I don't want to hear it, and then they're finding another physician, whatever. Um, so Mama Newman's been on it a week now. It was so good to talk to you the other day. She's lost 5 pounds, no bloating, less muscle aches, pockets and gums and teeth are healing. So her daughter, son, and hubby just signed up. Yes, yes. And that's how it goes. Once you start feeling better and you know how much your health is worth, it's $5 a day. Um, why wouldn't you do it? So I have my 7-year-old grandson who has a really devastating disorder, and my of course my son and my daughter-in-law are super protective in there. The medications that he has to be on because of this genetic disorder for him are like $30,000 a month. Thank God for insurance in that point. Thank God for medications in that point, right? But he was having some gastrointestinal distress. One of the medications that they put him on, which is saving his life, but at the same time making him be malnourished and having um, lipid problems and whatnot. I was like, can we please just try giving him the balance? Can we try it? And so a little over a week ago, he started taking small doses of the balance, and we're going to titrate that up. He hasn't had any gastrointestinal discomfort. He hasn't been having the blowouts. He doesn't, he's such a curious little boy. He doesn't like the taste. His mom was like, it tastes like a creamsicle. What's wrong with you? But he takes it and he says, Nana, my tummy doesn't hurt like it used to. And it's been 1 week and he's just doing the balance part. I have a granddaughter who is 12 who does the whole system. She was pre-diabetic at 10, started the system at 11. Her pre-diabetes is reversed. She's lost probably 30 pounds, is now doing sports and doing better in school and all of that. I have an ADHD grandson who's 14 who does the system, helps him regulate his moods with ADHD. My daughter does it. My stepdaughter, my daughter-in-law does it. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of my family, and my brother does it too. So yep, daughter's getting off the shot. Amazing. I had a long conversation with Mama Newman and her daughter, and thank you for trusting me enough to call me. And we talked about those drugs, just not, of course, everything any of us say is biased, as much as we try to stay unbiased. But we just really tried to give them the information on what I know from doctors like Dr. Bickman and some of the others that I listen to about those drugs and why they're not proponents of them. And I pass that information on. And I'm so glad to know that your daughter's getting off the shot because, not everybody has those horrific side effects. But one of the things for me is like, yeah, I'd love to get some weight off. Is it tempting to do those shots sometimes? Absolutely, because I'm human. Because just like everybody else, I want my body back like it was when it was in my 20s. I want all this gone, but I also know that all the damage that insulin resistance has done to me and what those drugs are doing and the pathways they're doing it through could cause me to end up with something like pancreatitis, to finally shut down my thyroid, to have a number of things. That's a risk I don't want to take. I would rather give my body the nutrients it needs to get me healthy than to go down that path. Now, everybody gets to make their choice, and I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad. I just want you to be educated on what's really going on. And hey, if you want to take those shots and you want to lose the weight quickly, and you understand that you're probably going to lose more muscle mass, and some of those shots can cause you to actually replicate fat cells and all of this other stuff, and you still want to do it, that's up to you, right? Does the product contain stimulants? The balance does not. The yerba mate tea has a small amount of naturally occurring caffeine in it. The caffeine is 80 to 120 milligrams per cup, less than that of a cup of coffee. But the big difference is that there are these things called adaptogens in the tea that are missing in coffee. Now, coffee has some chlorogenic acids in it. This has really bumped up the amount of chlorogenic acids from what's present in coffee. That chlorogenic acid helps mediate the effects of the caffeine. So you're getting the energy without all the negative side effects and without the rise and crash that you're getting and without the effects on the heart that like Bang Energy and high amounts of coffee are giving you, right? Bang Energy, because that's what I used to use when I lifted until I realized you're killing your heart. Stop it. But so it has that, but it also has these other two adaptogens called theobromine and mate saponins in it that help really balance out the effects of the caffeine. So the 80 to 120 milligrams of caffeine in this are going to react in your body very differently than the caffeine in coffee. So much so that the locals who harvest this call it morphine for mate caffeine instead of caffeine. And they make a very big distinction between whether they're drinking caffeine or morphine, because the morphine gives them a sustained energy, gives us all, without the crashes and without all the negative side effects. In fact, cardiologists are recommending this to their patient because even though there's the caffeine, those other components are helping it be heart healthy. So the tea has antioxidant, anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory effects in it, which far outweigh the little bit of caffeine in it. Okay. So the shots, though, you know what? When people tell me this is expensive, and then I talk to people who are on the shots, and whether they're in the insurance is covering it or not, they're paying on average $300 to $1,200 a month for those shots. This is $5 a day, $154 a month, and you're building health and lose. Like I lost 50 pounds, but I gained my health back. I stopped having joint issues. I stopped having leg cramps. I stopped having edema and swelling and neuropathy. I stopped having brain fog and headaches. Like those drugs aren't doing that, right? Okay. So, you guys, I will come back tomorrow. We'll talk about the thyroid, and I'm hoping we can get it all done in one tomorrow, but I have several questions about thyroid hormones, where they're processed, and the effects of insulin and all of that I really want to be able to answer as completely as I can. So we'll do that in the morning. And then think about what else you would like me to talk about. I love to talk about heart disease because actually my blood pressure was 180 over 150 at some point every day. The best we could get it to in the doctor's office in my physical chart was 150 over 110. That's a devastating blood pressure. Trust me, my physician, who is also a close friend, um, I worked for her in a number of different clinics, and we actually were roomies for a while. She was terrified that I was going to knock out before the age of 70 because of the extreme blood pressure that I had. My blood pressure now runs 110 over 70 every day. And I'm off of 13 different medications. So when people say, yes, this is expensive, you can look at letting insulin resistance take control of your life and end up on like 13 medications, some of them for pain, which I wasn't relating to the insulin resistance. I was just relating it to the numerous injuries I've had throughout my life. But even though I've had like 20 broken bones and multiple surgeries, and I even died on the surgical table one time, all of that, I feel so much better just by this, and I'm off of 13 different medications. Those 13 medications, about $10 a copay, that's about $130 a month. And now I'm not putting all of the junk in that's like managing symptoms but damaging my body. I'm actually building health. And that's what I want people to focus on, is your health. The size of your body, unless you're extremely morbidly obese, the size of your body shouldn't be mattering as much as the health of the body inside. So we all have differences, and this thyroid thing is huge because even if you get your insulin resistance under control and you're having problems with weight, it could be issues with thyroid or cortisol, and we need to understand that so we can address it all. But get the insulin resistance under control first, and then you can start to pick away at some of these other things and dial in what's happening. And I hope that is helpful. But if you're interested in the system, I never talk about it enough, but if you're interested in the system, just go to my profile link or the link I dropped in on Facebook, YouTube, and order it. If you, like Mama Newman is doing it now, she has 3 family members because she cares enough and understands how much better she feels just by these 3 things. A 301 sugar, how many units should I take? Mama Pen, I am not a physician, and there's so much more to what's going on with your sugar than units. And so if you're talking units of insulin, let's go back to that before I hop off, and then join me tomorrow and we'll talk some more about it. But if your blood sugars are 301, and mine were right around 260, so I understand. Um, you already have a high amount of insulin in your body. Your pancreas is working overtime, and that high amount of insulin in the body trying to deal with that sugar in your bloodstream can cause pancreatitis, where the pancreas becomes inflamed and now it becomes a whole other issue. But if insulin is really high in your body, so high that it's not able to deliver that sugar properly to all the cells of the body, which some of them are your fat cells. So now and whether you're big or little, your fat cells can only take up so much insulin, and that's going to be genetics, what it looks like for you. But if the insulin is unable to deliver the sugar, is adding more insulin really the best solution you have? I would think that controlling the sugar so that it doesn't hit that 301, and that might mean some dietary changes for you. Obviously, it would. But adding in fiber that's going to help those blood sugar spikes calm down and the need for the insulin to calm down is really one of the keys. Somebody asked about this, because does it help with bowel motility? Yes. This has a little bit of stimulant in it, so especially when you combine it with hot liquid in the morning, if you're somebody who wakes up and has some constipation, or you just need to go, this will help in the morning. Actually, that's one of the other actions it does. So now you're having food that's moving through you, so it's not getting stuck in your intestinal tract and in your gut and causing inflammation and all this stuff to go on. You're actually moving food through you more um, Bi bioenergetically is not the word, but more naturally, so that your body's able to get the food, the nutrients that it needs. Because look at, if you have diarrhea, you're malnourished, right? If you have diarrhea, maybe you're dehydrated, but maybe there's a lot of other things going on. The system just helps you regulate those blood sugar levels, and that 301 sugar, if you follow the protocol that I'm doing, can come down and be in normal range. I've had a number of people do it and not be on insulin. In fact, when they've done biopsies on people who do insulin, because even though they tell you to rotate your injection site, you end up injecting in the same area most often. They've done some biopsies on those fat cells, and they're fatter than the cells around them. Insulin, according to Dr. Bickman, is making you fatter quicker, it's making you sicker quicker, and it's killing you quicker. Hard truth, but that's what he says, and that's what he educates doctors around the world on, and they're starting to come around and understand that insulin is not the cure for a type 2 diabetic. Insulin is adding to the problem for a type 2 diabetic. That's a really kind of roundabout answer, but I don't know your health history. I can't tell you anything, but maybe give you that information to understand that there's got to be a better way to get your blood sugars under control. Okay. All right, guys, it's that time. It's been about an hour and a half. TikTok is telling me that they think maybe I'm a bot, so it's about time for me to get off. Guys, I'll be back tomorrow. We'll talk about thyroid. I appreciate every one of you. Please, please, please give the system a try. If you're suffering with any of those things, you have a 90-day money back guarantee. Like Mama Newman, I don't know if you're still in here. She can tell you, I actually do pick up the phone. I actually do have the conversations, and I really do care. So just give it 90 days to see what can happen for your health. Get a hold of me. Let's work through what we can. I'm here to be a coach, not your physician. Okay. So, but really get the insulin resistance under control, and you might be shocked at how much your health is better. Okay, two big announcements though before I go. The apple spice is one. You guys saw the apple spice earlier in the for the tea. It now comes in an apple spice flavor, which is amazing. But there's that's dropped now. It's a limited time, so if you want that, get that now. You can get it in the full system, or you can get it in the booster pack. And I'll try and fix the website today for the booster pack. But the other thing that I really want to talk about, because I've had a number of people, and I'm going to be sending out an email to all of my people today, a number of people who said, hey, I can't do it because there's a small amount of sucralose in it and I have a sensitivity to sucralose. We now have both products in a version called natural. So they are simply sweetened with stevia. So the lemon and the balance now come in a combination called natural. It doesn't show up on the order page. And for now, when you order the lemon, you're going to get because they're getting rid of the stock that we already have, and we're switching over to the stevia. For now, if you just order the lemon, you could get one or the other. I want to be clear about that. But if you want to make sure you're getting the stevia, get a hold of me and I'll help you through how to get the products that have stevia instead of sucralose or anything else in them. So those are two big announcements, and I'm really proud of the company for listening. I started asking 3 years ago, why aren't we sweetening with stevia? And we're making, well, they've had to do some testing on the product and the taste and the flavor so that you guys will actually drink it, and we're there. So that's coming out now, and I'm really excited for all the people who were requesting that the stevia is available now. So just let me know. Okay, and no more heartburn, Mama Pen or Mama Newman, right? So when I started, I had a problem with this drink because I did have so much acid reflux. Adding a little bit of salt, diluting it a little bit more, and drinking it over a little bit longer period of time will help with that. But that heartburn is actually a faction of your body. Insulin resistance causes your intestinal tract to freeze up a little bit. So your gut, when you eat, some of the foods are passing right through, right? But in some of these instances where we have heartburn, some of the food is getting stuck in the stomach and not moving out more naturally. So those acids are building up in your gut and they're bubbling up into your esophagus, and we call it heartburn. Too much acid in the stomach and food that's not passing through in the right time is causing that problem. Now, the fiber slows down the food, but in a more natural manner, and it coats it. So a lot of times in the beginning, Mama Newman, when I had acid reflux or heartburn or just an acidic stomach, I would, and still today, if I get a hold of seed oils or something and I have that gastritis pain, I will just have one of these, far better than a Tums. It coats my stomach up, it soothes those acids, and it works like that for me as well. So not just before meals, but I utilize the balance for that extra acid in my gut because I tend to have I call it a native gut. We get really acidic in our gut. So try that if you do have breakthrough acid, Mama Newman, ever, just try drinking a balance and see how that helps. Okay. All right. I will go and let you guys go, and we'll see you in the morning. And now I'm done. And thank you for joining me. Thank you for investing in your time with me. Thank you for stopping to learn a little bit for yourself. Take control of your own health and start to question every time you're given a medication why, and if there's a better solution. And let's get this world healthier by just putting back the nutrition we're supposed to have. We'll talk to you guys in the morning about thyroid. Be ready because there's a lot of information. Have a great day, everyone.